Hello there and welcome to this week's episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. You know the score by now. This is the show where you get to share stories in your life that relate to music, whether that's bands, songs, albums, soundtracks, themes, tunes, whatever, to the people, moments, events, scenarios in your life that have intertwined with each other. Because I believe we've all got stories to tell when it comes to that kind of thing. And my guest on this week's show is no different. So on this week's show is Sara Etterman. Sara is a life coach based out in Japan, helping people with relationships in their life to find things like self-love and self-worth so that they can move forward in their life in that aspect. The show again is full of great chat about music and moments in her life that Sara has shared with us through her playlist that links to special people and special moments in her life. I get to talk a tiny little bit about my perspective on a few things as well. So you get to enjoy a little bit from the both of us. But it makes for a great watch and listen. I hope you enjoy the show. Do like, comment and subscribe and all that good stuff on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this. And if you want to be on the show, do check out the sign up link. That's going to be around somewhere on the description or preview of the show. So without further ado, here's the show. Enjoy and feel supersonic. Hello there and welcome to this week's episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. If you've not seen this show before, where have you been? You've missed out on loads of stuff already, but not to worry. Today's episode will definitely whet your appetite to get some more on. So if you've not seen it before, then this is the show where we essentially share your stories about music in your life. So that's songs, albums, bands, soundtracks, theme tunes, whatever you want to pick. And how they intertwine with moments, people, events, times in your life. Because we've all got stories to share when it comes to that kind of thing. And my guest on today's show is no different. I'm very excited to have on Sara Etterman. Sara is a life coach who helps people with real things like, self-love and owning yourself and that kind of thing to take their steps forward in their life, whatever that means to them. So, Sara, welcome to the show. And if you just want to say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I'm Sara. My coaching business is Dose of Serotonin Coaching. Sara spelt with my name in it, serotonin. So if you
love
want
that
to
name.
find me, I'm
One of the best names.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have the handle in your little thingy thing, and it'll be easier for people to just click on it than try to figure out how to spell serotonin.
You will find it pretty much straight away because it's a great pun for a start, and when people check out your profile, they'll see exactly what you're all about.
Yeah, and so I would love to use today to just share more about what I'm about, and
Go for it.
Yeah, so this soundtrack of your life has been such a fun little homework assignment for me this past week, and just digging through all the playlists that I've had, and music has been such diving back into history and feelings and moments and thoughts and just times in my life, and I was like, what better way to go onto Soundtrack of Your Life than go talk about my life through songs. And so where it all
That's what we're here for.
is and I think it's the one you pointed out first, is Viva La Vida by Coldplay. And it's just such a heartwarming song. Why it's so special to me is my grandmother loved that song. She was just dance to it, and every time that song comes on, I think of her. And she passed when I was 16, and I'm 20. I'm 31 now.
Well, you look 20.
Thank you. So yeah, she's been gone for some time, but every time it comes on, I feel like it's her little way of saying hello, Sarah. Like I miss you, and like it honestly makes me emotional at times. So very special song for me. Um,
I
but
do
yeah,
I
that
do
one's
really
a
like
gimme.
the simplicity of it because it's very distinct. As soon as the first four chords on the violin start, you're like, I know this song,
Instantly.
and the set of lyrics is very in like intricate. Um, on first glance, you might think this is about an ancient king or some ancient time or something, but it's it kind of plays an analogy in our life. I used to rule the world. Um, Now I sweep the streets I used to own. So maybe kind of regretful character, remorseful character looking back, and sometimes we might feel like that. Opportunities missed or people that are no longer around in our lives and that kind of thing. But the chorus, as probably a lot with Coldplay songs, is quite uplifting. I hear bells are ringing, um, yeah, and then the tune as well on top of it just amplifies it. So it's a real kind of sort of tub thumper in the end.
Yes. Yes, that's totally what it gives me. If I need to be like uplifted and feel supported, that's the song. Like that's it. But yeah, so that was like the first throwback song. And then the next one on my playlist is Habits by Tuvlo. I think I'm saying her name right. Her
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically just a kind of grungy, like I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a song about getting high and days in a haze and like to keep this guy off her mind. I guess, she's going through a
Okay.
breakup. And so it's kind of a darker song. It's not a very like it's kind of a foggy song. But it's really nice. I just remember really enjoying the song. And at the time, I was actually in a really, really bad relationship for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Just he was emotionally like attached to me. Like he needed me, like my emotional support. He needed my financial support. We lived together, so I supported him in many ways, and he was anxiety and depressed, anxiety prone, depressed filled, and also no sense of what do you loss of words. Um, he didn't trust me, no like completely trust issues, and it was just awful, just toxic. And but this song I think came out during that time, and I remember getting dressed for work and having it on MTV videos, and that song would come on every morning, and it reminds me of that time in that dark space. Um, and after 2.5 years, finally broke up with him and was single for 5 years. And coming out of that breakup, of course, it sucked, right? But it was just like I was trying to stay positive and like trying to think. It was my first breakup, right? And so like trying to get through it. And this next song called Free by I'm looking at my notes so I don't forget
That's fine.
anything.
All good.
Lewis, the Child, and Drew Love. It's also not I don't think any of the some of these are not very popular songs, so everybody
That's mad.
should
Well, that's half the
go
beauty of the
check
show
them
because
out.
it's a chance for
Yeah,
people to introduce themselves to new
yeah.
tracks.
Yeah, so people should go listen so they
Yeah.
can really, yeah, hear these lyrics. But that one, I wasn't much into listening to lyrics. It was more like a feeling for me when I was in my early 20s, like how does the beat sound?
Okay.
So it was a slow evolution of like lyrics and getting into my life. But this lyric, the chorus goes, "At least you're free," and that like hit
Wow.
my heart. Yeah, like I really felt free, like from this relationship and like independent and like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And I'm like, you know what? At least I am free. I am so, like that is what I needed to hear. And so that song hit me, and that got me through it.
It's just four simple words as well, right? At least you're free.
Yeah, and that I
You
think the
know?
rest of the song has nothing to do with my situation. I think it talks about like a guy like missing his girl or something, but like just that chorus, like
Mm?
yeah, just that hit it, and it is crazy. Just four words, yeah, can do so much for somebody.
Well, I think that's sometimes something we lose in a lot of what we feel. And look, whatever we feel, I say is completely fine, whatever emotion comes through. But sometimes, how, like, I don't quite know how to articulate. There's a lot of energy you've got. There's things you want to let out and not necessarily know quite. But when you hear something, and this is the beauty of music, that at any time, anywhere, you mentioned, you just, well, the other song, while you're getting ready for work, it used to just be on MTV and just be constant as well. They keep recycling the old songs, so it just sort of permeates and keeps coming back to you. But sometimes it's a song that you hear out of nowhere. You weren't specifically looking for a song, and then, as you said, it doesn't have to be the whole song. It's just a little bit of it. It's like, that's what I mean. And so guests previously on the show have talked about that very essence, especially in like your formative years. Your teenagers, your early 20s, etc. When you're looking for almost to form your own identity, your own path, if you will. And when you hear, certain bands or albums, really take on that tone for you, it's like, yeah, anything I wanted to say, I'm sort of using it as a kind of a vehicle for my emotions. And it's
Yeah.
it's a really intense thing. And that's why I mentioned in the show as well that this is all about your anchors. That you'll define any time you'll hear that song now, you'll take it back to that moment. And again, that's all subconsciously something we piece together. Some are great, some are not so great, but at the end of the day, they're all our stories.
Yes, definitely. Beautifully said. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for me it wasn't so much like I said in my teen years. I think it's as I've become more aware and like listened to the
Mm,
world, uh, that lyrics have actually resonated more with me, um, instead of just being a busybody and not like hearing and taking
yeah.
in when I was,
Does
15,
anything does
16.
anything come to mind in terms of like the most powerful set of lyrics that you've heard?
You know, I can tell you the
Okay.
first set of lyrics that I remember that actually hit me. It's actually on the playlist, and it was "Live Your Life" by Ti and Rihanna. And
Okay.
he starts it. It's the beginning of the song. It's before they even start the song. He basically says, "What you need to do is be thankful for the life you got. Stop looking at what you ain't got. Start being thankful for what you do got." And I was like, like that's a kind of like a grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, just be thankful that you have grass and not dirt, and that I remember being when I like that really hit me. And I think I've lived my life through that now. It's just like being really grateful for like not living in a life of lack. I'm living in a
Yeah.
life of gratitude.
I'm just half annoyed it's in a song lyric, and like, because I thought maybe you could make a T-shirt out of that, but probably get copyrighted all over the place. But well,
just
again,
just give them credit.
yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's again, it's a simple message, and one you might think, yeah, and I've heard that before, but um, it's true. Like I was saying it to you the other day, and I was saying it to somebody, friend or family, I can't remember, that we're always defaulting to negative. That is sometimes how our brain is
Hmm.
wired. That
So easy.
we go melodramatic, going, the worst thing's going to happen. You don't even have control of the future. You don't know what's going to happen, but we immediately go, no, this is going to be a disaster, whatever the context might be. And it only takes a moment to go, well, instead of saying what we don't want, and as you said, focusing on the lack, it's like, well, we can always take a second to go, right, what do I have? It might not necessarily be the place you want to be right now, or the things you're wanting, which is fine. But then that's the clue to go towards, right, how do we change it? What do you actually want? And then people go, you know, they might be tempted to go to things like, okay, I want, you know, a big goal achieved, like, I don't know, I want to change my partner, or find a partner, change my career, lose weight, all those headline goal type things. It's like, well, that's not the end of it. You can keep asking, like, well, why do you want that? Not in an accusatory way, but more kind of like, well,
What's
are
your
you
why?
doing, what's your why? Yeah, and particularly if it's a why that it's, well, it's because everybody else is saying I should do it, or I
Not
feel
good
that
enough.
everybody else has got it, then exactly. That's when your own subconscious goes, what the fuck are you trying to do? And it looks at you going, well, you say you want these things consciously, but I'm not convinced, so we have to work together if this is going to happen. And that's what, you know, invariably comes out in things like, you know, what people call self-sabotage. I call it self-protection, but that's another time to discuss. And also a clue is to go, well, the thing you said you actually want might not be the thing you want, and only you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you got no willpower, or you can't do anything, or you're indecisive. It's just for you to go, well, I might not actually want the thing, which sounds counterintuitive and like, well, I don't want to feel like that. It's like, well, no, it's better to then go, right, okay, what does that achievement look like for me, rather than like the big massive change. Even if it's a small change that's actually beneficial to you, great. But as you said, the lyric captures it really well, of like, well, you know, what's your
Yeah,
why, and no need to focus on the lack.
exactly. And is your why for you or is it for somebody else?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and you hit the nail on the head. It's just
I mean, you must see it
what's
in
really
your
your why?
space as someone that helps with like relationships and self-love, right? Like, especially the why, right, and the
Yes.
lack.
Yes. Yes. I really try to get really dig into deep on like why is it that you want this? And a lot of people want love is because they're not giving it to themselves. They want it
Mm.
they're like, "Oh, I want to find a partner because I don't have love." I'm like, "Well, why don't you just give it to yourself?" Like, why do you want love? Because you're lacking it? Because, why? Why? Like, and just being a kid, like playing that game. Why? 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 Why?
Do you, I
Asking.
always remember. Do you remember the Animaniacs? The
No.
there's a cartoon by Warner Brothers, but I just remember there's
Oh,
a sketch by
yeah.
one of the characters, this little girl and a dog going around, and she used to just go, "What you doing?" to some whatever random, and then whatever they reply, she goes, "Why?" And then they would say, "Why?" Well, I'm probably annoyed a lot of people by saying that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's true. It is very childish, but look, ultimately, that's what will get you the true answer.
that's right. That's 100% right. Yeah, you sound like a true coach right there.
Well, I try.
But yeah, so after that breakup, I was single for 5 years, and I think this is why I became a life coach is because I want to help people with what I needed help with for so long.
Mm.
I didn't love myself, and um, I didn't even know it was like honestly possible. And I started that journey. I actually got a life coach, and it was life changing. And um, I really started working on myself. And the next song, "I Love Me" by Demi Lovato, a little more popular, maybe people know it. Um, so powerful. You know what's interesting? She actually never says "I love me" in the lyrics.
Oh, okay.
But I'll read the lyrics so fast, but it can resonate, I think, with a lot of people. It resonated with me so much. I mean, I feel like the entire song was just like so relatable. And if I was an artist, this is like gold.
Okay.
So she says basically flipping through all these magazines, telling me who I'm supposed to be, us comparing ourselves to others and social media, way too good at camouflage, just not being your true authentic self. Can't see what I am, just see what I'm not. And oh, everybody, I think, just looks at, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that. And it's just like, but what makes you great, you know? Like, yes, you might be introvert, but that's what makes you beautiful. Like that you're not extrovert. Like just if there was full with extrovert like people, that would be a little chaotic. And anyway, she goes on, I'm guilty about everything that I eat, every single bit. Feeling myself is a felony. Jedi level sabotage. Voices in my head make up my entourage. Like my self-talk was terrible myself. And why am I always looking for a ride or die? Because mine's the only heart I'm gonna have for life. This like literally just plays into loving yourself, and why are you always looking it like elsewhere, you know? And so haters that live on the internet live in my head, should be paying rent. I'm way too good at listening. All these comments fucking up my energy. Um, Talking about beating herself up, and she's an expert at giving love to somebody else instead of herself. Um, anyway, there's so much. There's even more, but it's as you're getting it. Like that song was incredibly relatable, and that's how I felt. I was just so picky on myself, like, and it it was just ugly, and I was living in a world of anger, um and that song, like that whole song, like it's funny how it goes from what 4 words in one song to an entire song.
Well, absolutely, and
That
that's I say it's half the beauty of it, really, because I was mentioning, like, clues earlier as to asking ourselves further questions, but sometimes, like, whilst a short few words might hit the
mm-hmm,
emotion straight away, sometimes it's like, okay,
mm-hmm,
now it's like an entire song, then it might become an entire album, then it might become an entire
mm-hmm,
band,
mm-hmm,
and again, something I
yes.
mentioned in another episode with a guest is that um I feel there's a lack of bands today, if you will, that speak not for the people, but what you might call an era-defining thing. So it's not necessarily linking to certain emotions per se, but it's like, well, it just encapsulated the times that we're in. For example, like, you could rifle through from the 50s up till the present day, bands of that era, the 60s and 70s, about the Beatles, the Stones, the Who. The 80s, you had people like AC/DC. Obviously, I'm speaking from a guitar band perspective, but of course there's loads more out there. And in the 90s, you had Oasis and Blur and Nirvana and all these kind of things. And yeah, modern day, you could say people like Coldplay, you could say Adele, Ed Sheeran, all these kind of people. But in terms of that one band that speaks for the times, I think there's a little bit of lack at the moment. But it's a really great point you say, that your personal connection to a song evolves like that, because of it's a clue to say, well, there's more emotion for you to process. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also the great thing about when you hear the song for the first time, you go, right, you instantly create that connection with it, so that whenever you hear it again, it's like,
Your
either the
anchor, like
same,
you're saying.
yeah, either the same emotion crops up. And
Yes.
again, it's not as like, oh shit, I've got more processing to do. It's more like, I always say it's like a reminder of, if something similar were to come up again in your life, then
Mm-hmm.
that's something you could tune into. So you mentioned at the very beginning about playlists. Like, I've had people on the show saying they've got certain playlists for certain emotions. Some have got like a
Mm-hmm.
sad song playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Some have got
Yeah.
like a party playlist or whatever.
Right.
So we tune into those kind of things, and I find them very helpful as like emotional soundboards
Mm-hmm.
to outlay whatever you're feeling. Something very
Yeah,
powerful.
it's also interesting to see how your taste of music could can develop as you age, as
Yes.
especially me. Like I was like I was saying, like not into lyrics, so I was like full on, like I was like dubstep, like just listening to like the bass, like I didn't even care about lyrics. But now I'm just like, okay, I can barely listen to that. And like I listen to much more calming music as my 20-year-old self would be like, that is boring. But it's what I call noise. What noise are you filling your life with?
Mm,
Is
mm.
it negative noise? Is it positive noise? And I like, if a song is like hits too hard, or like emotionally or like negatively, I'm like, mm-mm. This, like, take control of it, change it up. Like, and also if I'm feeling sad, will listening to sad music make it worse, or should I be listening to something a little more uplifting,
Oh,
like
good
La
question.
Vida? What will serve me in this moment?
How have you found that experience then? Are you one to instantly change it to something more, as you say, uplifting, or do you uh, let yourself feel that emotion? Like,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
very
a good
interesting question.
question. Yeah, I think it's good to allow yourself to feel emotions. I
Mm,
don't think you shouldn't just suppress and just like bottle up. Like, allow the emotions to feel, but don't sit in it. Get
right.
it out, let it feel, run its course, and then take control and move it for, like, get it out and change your energy.
So what does that look like to you? Because like I'm interested to know for listeners and viewers that like at what point do you know that like okay I've kind of processed it, and whether you then move on to something more uplifting, or you just okay enough with just processing it. What does that actually look like um,
I
to you?
think for me, I kind of just get sick of feeling like this. I'm like, okay, like I'm just done. Like, this is not
Okay.
fun. This is like, I feel like it's run its course. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to like, my pity party is over. Like, it's
Mm,
just like I'm just over it. I'm just done and
right.
wanting to get on with life. And um I think it comes to a realization, is me sitting like this doing me any good?
Mm,
And is it serving me? And um I think it's more of just it's I don't think there's like a spark or an instant cue, but it's just kind of a gradual feeling that it's just like, all right, let's move on.
no, well put. I mean, I think to everybody it will look different.
Yeah, yeah, of
Again, it's what we
course.
were saying before. It doesn't have to be a templated reaction. Doesn't mean like I
Mhm.
should be have reacting like I should be. It will look like whatever it look like to you. For some, it'll be okay. I need to hear a lot of that kind of music. I need to hear something different straight away. But only you will know at that point of like that kind of crossover. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
for me, it's been like to as you said, experience it in full until it's like, well, to me, you reach that point of like, okay, now what? It
Yeah.
almost your system just goes,
Yeah.
okay, now what?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it might involve hitting replay on the song to let more emotion out. Might be something different, or I've got it down to the a different playlist now where like okay I might play something that lets me um, release an emotion, and then I've got something that is what I call like it's my leveling playlist, or if you think about like a palette cleanser, if you will. So like
Mhm.
if this is this
Mhm.
these songs are not necessarily there to express a emotion or an emotion, even get grammar right, um, but it's just something that okay you're in a kind of neutral space,
Yeah.
and I've got a lot of tracks that kind of appeal to that. Some might even call that an emotion itself, like being neutral,
Yeah, it's
being
getting you
being
back to your
still.
baseline,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah, and that baseline will be different for everybody. So it's just
Mhm.
interesting to
Mhm.
see what you made of that. So
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
a
And
great
I think
question.
every experience is going to be a little different. Like, is it a petty experience, or is it like a traumatic experience? And Yeah, of course, the time and intensity is going to be a little different,
Mm.
depending on the situation and the person, obviously. Yeah.
I like how you just made that distinction just then between petty and traumatic. I think again that's another pointer to say that's going to look different for everybody. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I previously struggled maybe with that perception of
Mhm.
what is petty and what's
Mhm.
like bigger, because you'd hear a lot of language of like, oh, get over it, or move on, or it's not a big deal, whereas to you it feels like a really big deal.
Mhm.
Whether that's how you're, particularly when it comes to relationships, like the whole, am I communicating effectively, you know am I getting the response correct, like, not correctly, but like, am I getting enough of a response, and
Mhm.
all this kind of thing. And it's questions you ask of yourself, and
Mhm.
you might go overboard with then a behavior to, like we were saying, well, you were saying at the very beginning about, instead of giving that acceptance and communication to yourself, you look for it from other
Mhm.
people, and that's
Mhm.
something, I was probably late to cotton on to. But what to you to like may define petty or something bigger?
Well, here's the thing. We It's up to you what you determine.
Mm.
You put the definition behind the meaning. You define the meaning between every interaction. Like, I've had a friend, like, I've blown out two tires at one time. Like, it sucks, but I think I remember thinking, like, if this were to happen to a really close friend of mine, specifically, it would have ruined her entire day. Whereas me, it's just like,
Right.
this sucks. And like you were saying, it's mindset. And sometimes it's a cue to me, like, is this showing me something that I need to work on? Like, if something, that maybe my boyfriend says something and it really struck me. I'm like, did what why is that striking me? Did I put
Mm.
the meaning behind that? Because I really don't think he meant to hurt me, and I think that might be something I need to look at. So thank you for reflecting on what, like, putting a mirror in front of me of, like, why, because it's so petty, especially when it's petty things. It's just like, I don't know if you've ever vented to somebody and it was just like, is that stupid? Is that stupid? Am I being crazy? It's just like, you probably are if you have to ask that. I don't know. So, yeah, I just try to dissect everything a little bit.
People again listening or watching that might going, yeah, isn't that a bit crazy to sort of microanalyze everything? It's like, well, that's kind of half the point of like, it's not microanalyzing to the extent of like, right, let's find something wrong here, and it's not trying to, um, you know, live your life by so many small rules and, as you said, getting micromanaged. Because externally, when we get micromanaged, we don't, you know, feel comfortable with it, especially if it's like a worker boss relationship. Everyone who's got like a very micromanaging boss, and things like, bloody hell, they're getting on my case for whatever reason. When you do that to yourself, it's like, well, you're exacerbating the behavior even more. But that's not what we're looking at here. Of going, right, why is it like this and why that? It's more to satiate your own inner curiosity, but also the whole, okay, it comes back to taking your own responsibility of what might be going on. And again, that sounds again counterintuitive for many, because we're not used to that, because it's easier to go, oh, it was because of him, she, they, it, something or one external that I'm feeling like I do. But when you bring it back to yourself, it's as you say, saying, if it is petty or something small, it's like, well, why is that actually, making me react like that? And that again, come back to music, is like, that's the beauty of um, your own anchors to songs, bands, whatever it might be, because you might hear a song and it's like very meaningful to you and all this kind of thing. Somebody else might listen to it and get something either completely different meaning wise, might get no meaning, might not even like the song, but that's that's the point, really. And again, something I've previously mentioned too, that like I used to have a thing about music snobbery, and although I've worked on it, it's died down a bit in my perspective. It's like when you first cotton on to a certain band, a certain style of music, etc., you want to find similar like-minded people. So when you share it with others around you and they're like, oh, I don't know, it's too loud and da da da, it almost feels like it's a personal judgment.
Attack. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, okay, oh, your music's crap and this is the best band and this, that and the other, and like you get into that kind of thing, and you quickly realise that, like, well, you know what, everyone's free to decide for themselves what's their kind of music or whatever, and eventually for me it died down as to like, well, I don't have to like every kind of music or band or like what everybody else likes. Like, they like that thing, I like my thing. If people come along in my space, great. If not, even better. So it's always just something how you bring it back to you.
Yeah, I think it's not revolving around you, and I think that's what you were saying is like thinking that everybody should like what you like in every song. It's just like, how could you not think this is great? Or like what personal attack, but like you were saying, everybody has a right to their own opinion, and that can be expressed in every single aspect of life, politics, religion, and just I think shining curiosity on like, really, you think metal is really like, how could you think screamo? It's just so interesting to me how you could think that. Like, how can you please express that? And like doing the same with where they came from or how they were raised with the religion or politics. Like, instead of taking like being judgmental and thinking your opinion is specifically right, like, be open-minded.
Absolutely. And that's again half the point of the show, that you get to see different perspectives from people. And it's funny you mentioned before, like, will people have heard some of the songs I'm sharing? Honestly, like, I would say the vast majority of the shows so far for me have been about music that I've not heard before. But it's like, that's brilliant, because you get to hear new perspectives, and also from someone not just saying, oh, here's a song. It's like they've explained to you what it means to them.
Yeah.
So almost you're looking for the pointers in that song that they've signposted you to, of like, okay, this is why this is great for me, and this kind of thing. It's like, okay, you're not necessarily looking to replicate what they feel or get the same thing, but it's like, okay, wow,
but it's been vouched for.
Yeah, it's been vouched for, and it's also, okay, wow, this, like, it's a bit like, I read the other day, most people make a purchasing decision online after reading reviews. They'll go, okay, if everybody else likes it, it's like, right, this must be good then. So it's great that that's half the point of putting the playlist on the description afterwards. People can share it, so like you can see, like, here's the gateways, because if we think about it, that's how the music we like, a lot of it will have come from someone recommending it, someone sharing a playlist, a CD, a mixtape, or whatever with you, and then it becomes a gateway into exploring, well, whatever you want to explore, really, whether it's the band's album, whether it's the band's discography, whether it's more bands like that, or whatever it might be.
Yes, exactly. Beautifully said. And speaking of songs that you've probably heard, I think you've probably heard maybe The Weeknd.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
Feel It Coming.
Yeah.
Have you
Cool.
heard that song? I Feel It Coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good song. It's a good song.
So, yeah, that one, that was a song that really resonated with me. Not because of lyrics, I would say per se, exactly. That one reminds me of the night I spent with my girlfriends. It was just like four of us, I think, and we were at a lake, one of their parents' lake house, and just stargazing and just having a girls' night. And it was around the time that I decided I want to move from the United States to Japan and make this big leap. And I was leaving my friends and my family, and and one of the girls, she just loves The Weekend, and this song was on, and so we were stargazing, and right as he was singing I Feel It Coming, I think I saw like three shooting stars consecutively.
Wow.
And it was just, yeah, it was just so magical. It was just like the universe was just like show, like, and it was just, oh, it was such a night that I'll never forget. But yeah, that song was really great. And then, so I moved to Japan, and I had quit my accounting job, and it's like, what do I do now? Who do I meet? Like, I'm still single, and I met my now boyfriend of 2 years, Andre, and he introduced me to this next song, LSD. It's L dollar sign D by ASAP Rocky, or A dollar
Okay.
sign, yeah, ASAP Rocky. Um, so it's he introduced it to me, and it basically says, it goes, I think it starts, I know I dream about her all day. I look for ways to say I love you. Make no mistakes, it's all a leap of faith for love. My tongue at a loss of words because my feelings just said it all. Dreaming of sharing words. Can you feel it? And I was like, I was typing those lyrics today. I'm like, how interesting. It says, can you feel it? And like right before my last song was like, I Feel It Coming. So it's a little bit of a tie. But yeah, so that song, every time I hear it, reminds me of right when I met my now wonderful boyfriend. So that song closely to my heart as well. And then
What a really nice share. Like, yeah, it's those kind of songs when you share it with someone special. It's like, you know, I think there is a little bit of you saying, I hope they get it. It might be as clear as, well, that example. To you, it's crystal clear, but it's like there's always a part of you going, I hope they get it. You know, and as much as that might go against what we might have said previously about, you know, not necessarily wanting that validation of other people or how they feel should be how you're feeling, but it's like, I bring it back to that, and it's something I've questioned a fair bit, the whole human need for love and connection. Because as much as we say things like, you know, take your own responsibility and give yourself the love and this kind of thing, so you don't necessarily have to get it externally, but then there's a need for love and connection to other people. Where human beings are tribal species, and it's these kind of moments when you share something with someone else, especially somebody special, whether it's your partner, your parent, your sibling, your best mate, whatever. It's like, I hope you get it. And it's not to say it ruins that connection for you if they don't,
yeah,
but it's like if they got it, it's like the connection just comes even more stronger.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Yeah, so it's it's nice that we share that song together. But
I
so
feel that's a first dance at a wedding song, maybe.
I don't know. I thought about it, but
Okay, right.
it kind of talks about drugs, and I'm like, I'm not sure the fam's
Sod it.
gonna.
Again. That's what I always laugh at. It's like, well, if you two get it, that's it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. If anybody else contents on, great. That's a bonus. But you know,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
you're right. You're
yeah.
right.
I mean, it doesn't all have to be like, you know, all totally gloopy. It's like, wait, look,
Yeah,
if it's got a unique reference in it, great.
yeah.
It's all good.
Welcome, right? It's
Exactly.
about us.
Exactly. Yeah, literally. It's ironic. It's like, yeah, you're all here because it's a special day. It's my wedding. But yeah, fuck it. If you don't get it, fuck you lot, really. Nah.
Yeah. So, and then my last song, is it my last song? Oh, yeah, it is. So, it's okay. So I was go I like I said, I just come to Japan and I quit my accounting job. I met Andre and I'm like, what is next in life, right? Like,
Mm.
do I go like what am I feel like this is a new start. Do like who do I want to become? What do I want to do with my life? I was 26, 7, I think. I'm like, what do I want to do? Um,
Yeah.
and I was like, I think I want to be a life coach. And so that's when I started pursuing becoming a life coach. And um, a little fun fact about me, it'll tie in, but I love gold jewelry. Gold jewelry is like my thing. I mean, gold everywhere. Like I just love gold. And
Okay.
so I was thinking of like these names about like how like for my coaching business, right? And my my friend, my coworker, was just like, "Hey, have you heard this song before? Or have you heard this artist?" And I was like, "No." So his name's Nick D, Nic, and then just D, Nick D. And so I started listening to some of his songs, and one of the songs, it was singing blah blah blah, and actually, let me rewind. So I was thinking about the dose of serotonin, okay, and I was like, I just don't know if it'll resonate because I'm not sure most of the population knows what serotonin is and what it means.
Right. Yeah.
And will it click? Will it like if you don't know what it is or what it means, it's not as you can't appreciate it as much. So I was just like
Yeah.
I was very wishy-washy on dose of serotonin. So I was listening to the song and the lyrics go like this, okay? I like your face, a dose of serotonin, sun-kissed waves, and babe, your skin is golden. And I'm like, done. I'm running it.
That's a
You
tagline if
literally,
ever I've heard one.
yeah. I feel like that's the universe telling me, do it. This is it. And so the song is called Serotonin, spelt the correct way. But yeah, that song, I just love it so much. It was just like really what gave me the confidence to run with that name.
That's a brilliant like time. Yeah, I was thinking you should put a clip out on your channels about that. You know where you
Yeah.
came up with it. To be honest, I might just clip
Yeah.
this part and just put that as the advert because it's a really nice crafted name. It definitely resonates with what you do, but also is that if people don't necessarily know what it is, because it's funny because like they may not know okay what does serotonin do or that kind of thing, but they hear things like dopamine. They hear things like
Endorphin.
oxytocin, endorphins, that kind of thing. So it all sounds, on one
Yes.
hand, like a bit nerdy, a bit sciencey, but on the other, it's like, okay, I've heard things like, okay, people say, that's dope. Well, you know of it colloquially then. You'll have heard of, things in news articles and this kind of thing. Of, this increases dopamine, this increases serotonin. Sunshine does this, music does this, da 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 da. But this gives you an opportunity to find out for you what's almost your own drivers and triggers for this kind of chemical, because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately that's what the emotions boil down to. They are chemical reactions in your brain
Mm-hmm.
and system
Mm-hmm.
that lasts for 90 seconds if you just let it flow through you. But the moment we're catching that trigger and trapping it somewhere inside us, because we associate it with past experiences, our understanding, and it's a default thing. That's why we react to things the way we do at the moment, and that's what gets us into challenges, issues, all this kind of thing. But when we take the time to look into, okay, as you said before, what does that mean for me? What did that trigger mean? It's like the mirror analogy. Okay, what's it talking about for me? And only you have that perspective and answer. And if we can use music in that way to help us with that, that's like really powerful. um, I mentioned things before about playlists to that appeal to certain emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people feel is that just necessarily about you mentioned before you weren't really into lyrics before, but even in like instrumental stuff, dance music, or film scores, or classical music, they're really powerful um, pieces of music and art that even have no words. So when, like Hans Zimmer is a big favorite of mine, from especially the Batman soundtrack, and even the most recent one. I forget the name of the guy, but very simplistic score, but incredibly powerful. It's pieces from that soundtrack that you can just you can recall from the movie where it came from or where it is, but also when you just isolate that music and play that, it's like, okay, it's appealing to something. And that for me is the curiosity. Is like, okay, why? I remember when I saw the trailer for the Batman, and I'm by no means the world's biggest Batman fan or anything like that, but it's funny because I was previously talking with my cousin. We saw Joker with Joaquin Phoenix together like months ago. Yes, like incredible. We both just said like, this is obviously a Joker origin story, and yes, we've had Batman Begins with Christopher Nolan's trilogy, but if we could get something in the same sort of darkish manner of like how Batman sort of came along, sort of his kind of origin story, then wouldn't it be great to see the next film in both installments run concurrently? So how did Joker become even more, prominent, and then how did Batman get like that too? And then where do they clash? So when the trailer for Batman hit, first of all, it started with a slowed down version, or slightly slowed down version of Nirvana's Something in the Way, and it's like, okay. And then the dark cinematography and the echoing piano notes, it's like, wow. And I'm like, okay, someone's either tapped into what our conversation about this. I'm like, this is the depiction we were looking for. And the film definitely didn't disappoint, but it's like that curiosity that came from just those simple notes that, if you rewatch the trailer, that's all that it starts with. It starts with a sound effect of gaffer tape, without giving spoilers for those who haven't seen it. It's the opening scene of the film where you see the Riddler, and then the music kicks in, and it's like, wow, no words. That's it. It's like, okay, wow. It's that thing that makes you want to keep repeating, hit repeat, and it's like, okay, wow, there's something in that for sure.
It got you to watch the movie.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, the movie then enabled me to write my first book, but that's
Oh,
yeah.
how
So
cool.
it in a nutshell, it's like, there's a line in the film called where he says, the Batman says, they think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And it's like, what? So immediately I thought, right, when I get out of the cinema, I'm gonna like write something about it. Not a book, but like one line turned into two lines, turned into a paragraph, turned into a page, and then you just keep going and keep going and keep going. So it's essentially now a book about shadow work and in the context of Batman. It's it's like there's a chapter devoted to it, but it's more about how do you do shadow work? What is shadow work? Why do you do it? All from just I had no inclination that I was going to do something like that, but it's like just on the back of the film, really.
Actually, have you read Tools by, what is his name? Phil Stutz.
No,
He
no.
talks about a shadow, and I haven't read it yet, but it kind of sounds similar. But have you finished it?
Oh, the book.
Yeah, that you
Yeah.
wrote.
It's
You
been
were
out
writing
for
about.
since the film was out, really. So middle of last year. So
Oh shoot!
it's available. It's a shortish read. It's not like a massive
Sounds like
book.
my kind of book.
Yeah, look, I'll share the link in the description if people want to check it out, and
Yeah,
let me know what they
very
think.
cool.
It's as I said, it was something that was not planned. It was a spur of the moment thing. As I say, I don't. No, I'm not a massive comic book aficionado or a Batman aficionado. It's just literally, it's just the way everything was put together, cinematography, almost the story as well. Of like, look, this isn't the superhero film that you all think it is. Like, say, a glitzy, big effects thing like an Avengers thing or whatever. They're great films too, or that. But it, the film was about the the Batman essentially struggling to understand why is he Batman. You see him more vulnerable, you see him more prone to mistakes. He's not like, the all-conquering, figure you see in other depictions. It's like he's trying to understand himself as a person and his alter ego, and he's got this villain that's very much about not the theatrics like say the Joker was, but more kind of like, right, he's getting to Batman's psyche, and obviously he's involved in the plot and all this kind of thing. So like it's really well put together of that different perspective of just a superhero struggling, which you don't necessarily see explored, but obviously done in a very I forget the term, cinema noir, like very black, very dark themes. Just a really, really, really unique piece of art.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Yeah, I can tell you're quite the creative. So it sounds
Yeah.
I would love to read it.
No, absolutely, and the links I make to shadow work in that book are both in terms of how you can apply it to yourself, and for I guess the context of it as well, being that it came from the film. It's like, well, I explore a tiny bit in a chapter about, okay, what do you see in the film that links to what is being said in the book? As I mentioned, that you can see essentially the Batman as a shadow of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the what I'd call like your youngest version of yourself. People call it inner child, but I stem away from that. It's like, think of the youngest version of yourself that had no like restrictions, inhibitions, all this kind of thing. But on the other side, you've got the shadow. Shadow is your collective of experiences, emotions, etc. that you've pushed away. They've got unresolved emotions in them that you couldn't explore at the time, so your subconscious defaulted to protection, to go, right, let's put that away. But they're there, unresolved, right? So for Bruce Wayne, that's the Batman where he gets to be, violent, gets to be expressive, and the book goes on to explore how you could, articulate that as the Batman as a shadow and Bruce Wayne as the youngest version, and they're trying to reconcile themselves. At times one is stronger than the other, but ultimately the two are the same person. And it gives people some practical pointers as to how they can apply it in life as well. So, as I say, not the biggest read in the world, but just something to put out there for people.
Ooh, I love that. It sounds like such a beautiful tie together. Yeah.
I had great fun writing it.
How long did it take you?
Probably a month maybe, and it was more to just make sure I got the flow right, of like, okay, this is not just about Batman, although the cover, the title, this kind of thing does point to it, but it's like I wanted to make sure that people understood what this is for. And yeah, look, to each their own, they'll take from it what they want. And that's what I went back to the beginning almost and said, right, this is a kind of taster as to what shadow work is, why you do it, and this kind of thing. The Batman is there to give the kind of applied example, but obviously this is more about you, and I just wanted to make sure I got that bit right, so that people kind of understood what it's about. But in terms of what to write, it was like, okay, there are a few key chapters that I put in of about, okay, so first of all, you want to define what is a shadow, from a Jungian perspective and an archetype perspective and that kind of thing. But I didn't want to get bogged down in that kind of psycho speak, if you will. It's more like, okay, it's essentially, like I said, the place where unresolved pieces go. How did they get there? So I was trying to put in more examples that relate to the reader in a very simplistic way, right? Then it's like, okay, how do you do shadow work? There's multiple perspectives, and then why would you do it? Because people might go, oh, sod, I'll just live with it. It's like, these are the reasons why. And then just the applied example at the end of like, this is what the Batman might be saying about it. So just as I say, that's just come from watching watching the film and the soundtrack as well. And even today, it's like how I bring it back to music is that have you seen the film, by the way?
How many are there now? The Batman movies?
Oh, there's multiple directions. I mean, 10 to 12 if you're not counting the ones where he's in with like another, like a Batman v Superman and all this kind of thing.
Oh,
I
right.
don't
Oh my
tend to
God.
count them, but it's like but I'm talking about, this is the latest one that came out last year.
No, I have seen the Joker, but not that
Okay.
one. No.
uh well worth watching it. As I said, it's a slightly long watch. It's about 2.5 hours, but
Mm-hmm.
um you don't have to be a Batman fan
Good to
to
know.
appreciate it. And it doesn't, it's not like you got to remember what happened in like the last film. It's literally kind of
Okay,
like
great,
resetting
great,
itself.
great.
But essentially the opening 5 to 10 minutes of the film have that soundtrack I was talking about. Not Nirvana's song, that's more kind of like played throughout in pieces of the film, but there's the film's first 10 minutes, it begins with a very basic melody, so sort of three chords sort of repeating themselves over and over on a very low uh, strings ensemble. So it's a slow build up, and then there's like, it's interspersed with stabs of strings, and it builds and it builds and it builds to the main motif of the film. The real, like, it's like, it's kind of like it's like it creeps up on you a little bit like Batman, right? Because the first 10 minutes, literally shows him emerging from the shadows, and so I won't give it away what necessarily happens, but that piece, like, that whizzes on YouTube. They managed to repeat the song, and like they put it for like 30 minutes, like on a loop and this kind of thing. That for me is really powerful to listen to, and I put that as a state of I call it recalibrating. It's like it's a chance for me to go, okay, take away all the experiences of what's going on. Like, what do I need to reflect on? What do I need to recalibrate? And I find that's a really useful track to
Interesting. It sounds like
accompany that.
a source of mindfulness almost.
100%, 100%. And it wasn't something that I consciously
Mm-hmm.
realized. It was like, I didn't feel that, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the film and I've got to make something like last about it. It's like just the opening 10 minutes was quite powerful, and the soundtrack to it was the thing that underpinned it all. And again, when I found that piece on YouTube of not just the 3 or 4 minutes it lasts on the soundtrack, but when it's looped in that manner, it's like, okay, because for me, like, when I'm working on something, I like to have something on in the background, whether that's my earphones or some sort of sound to
Mm-hmm.
help, or be there, if you will, keep me going. But yeah, I find that this piece specifically is for, right, when I need to just sort of reorientate, recalibrate, that kind of thing.
Interesting. I'm glad you found that. That's interesting that you found that. Kind of stumbled onto it in an accident
Exactly,
a little bit.
exactly. And that, I think, has been the great showcase of your show today, where, like, you shared with us all these songs that, like, have popped up and that they mean something to you. Like, for example, your boyfriend gave you that song, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether you'd have found it on your own is one thing or another, but look, that just came along into your life from someone special. And these are the kind of stories that make this show worthwhile, because it's like, that's where you get to hear those really nice connections, really nice stories.
Mm, yeah.
And as I'm just looking at the time, like, look, we've already spoken for about an hour. That
Yeah.
You know, and I always say this. It should be my recurring thing of like, time flies when you're having fun, and this show is always like that. Where like this show, the time just slips by, and it's like, yeah, you want to explore more with this person, but it's like, okay, we'll always try and leave them wanting more. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. Would love to have you back on at some point, and I just wonder if you want to give it again, just a reminder of people where they can catch you, and any final thoughts before you wrap up.
Yeah, so at Dose of Serotonin Coaching on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, it's been a beautiful talk. I love the concept of this show. It's like you said, it's flown by, and it's so unique. And thank you for allowing me to experience this. I would love to come back, maybe say in a year's time, and see what new songs have taken me through the year of 2024.
That'd be a great idea. Let's do that for sure. Maybe even get you on sooner at some point. But
Yeah.
thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Please do like the video or podcast, comment with your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and sign up to be a guest on the show. Feel supersonic.